Hello and welcome to Rogue Voice, conversations that connect and inspire. I'm Tiffany Cooper.
And I'm Jessica Gomez. Today we are going to be exploring the whole area of live entertainment and theater. I mean, it is such an important part of our community and economic vitality, Tiffany. I know this is sort of the area that you live in.
Absolutely. You know, one of our guests, had the pleasure of performing with him, and he's just a wonderful talent and just a staple in the community. Collaborating with great artists in the community is what's all about. You know, I believe that art has the ability to heal, connect, and educate, you know.
Absolutely. And one of the things I just love best about the summertime is getting together with friends or family and being able to relax outside and listen to some beautiful music or just go out and have some fun. I mean, it is so important to have that element. And for us in the Rogue Valley, it's really a big part of what keeps our community vital.
Absolutely. Well, to share with us their perspective on what live music and entertainment venues will look like in the future, we have invited two guests that have a lifetime experience filling our community with world-class entertainment. Please let me introduce Donna Briggs, President and CEO of Britt Music and Arts Festival, Ed Dunsavage, Artistic Director, Siskiyou Music Project. Please welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You know, I was thinking about this the other day and remembering kind of the first time I experienced sort of music here locally. And I keep thinking back to this moment when I went to Britt. Tracy Chapman was playing, and I'm a huge Tracy Chapman fan, as well as my sisters and my mom, and we were all there, and it was just like, about dusk, and she comes out on stage and she says, "I can't believe what an amazing venue this is, tucked in amongst all these beautiful trees," and it was just a magical moment. What a great thing to have for all of us here. Donna, I'm going to start with you. Could you tell us a little about the history of the Britt Festival and sort of what it means to Southern Oregon?
Well, of course, it's been around since 1963, so it is a staple in the community. Yeah. And it is community owned in a sense. It's not like a for-profit, corporation. Everybody has an opinion about Britt. And everybody loves Britt, and so it's an interesting dynamic between the management of Britt and the public. But I want to go back to what you were saying about your experience at your first concert. One of the interesting things about managing Britt is getting artists to come to Southern Oregon for the first time is a challenge, because we really are kind of off the beaten path and nobody's ever really heard of Southern Oregon. And it's really terrific, because once we get them here, they can't wait to come back. The venue is so unique in the intimacy between the audience and the performers. It really is unlike any other venue that I've ever been to.
Well, you're actually doing great work. You're actually doing incredible work, because I remember when we moved there, we moved to Ashland, Oregon, and I was getting acquainted to a lot of locals. And the first thing they said to me was that, we moved here not for really the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, but we moved here for the Britt Festival. We are music lovers, and we love world-class music, and we have it here. We've got great wineries, and we've got a great, music venue that we can really enjoy. So you're doing something right. Would you agree?
Well, we hope so. Yeah. A lot has changed, in the past 10 years. 10 years ago, the concessions was lacking, to say the least. It was just volunteer managed, and there were very limited choices in the wine and the food. And about 7 years ago, we started experimenting with different wineries and bringing in wineries from all over the Applegate to at least try to serve throughout the course of a season. And then, of course, the the food was very limited on the Hill up until about 5 years ago. And now, of course, we offer great food with Peruvian Point and Back Porch and Fired Up Gourmet. So, you know, the experience to that degree is also exceptional.
That's excellent. So Ed, I'd like to shift and ask you, could you talk a little bit about how you started the Siskiyou Music Project and how you use it to serve the community?
Sure, Tiffany. So Siskiyou Music Project began, we're going into our 19th year. It was founded by good friends of mine, Rick and Joanne Seward, who owned this property and up on the old Siskiyou Highway. And they had a space that they used for house concerts called the Old Siskiyou Barn. And at that time, it was just house concerts, kind of word of mouth. And I first met them in the late 90s and kind of pitched them on the idea. I went to a show and really loved the venue and pitched my idea on maybe presenting some jazz there because they had never done jazz, but they had this great 9-foot grand piano there. So they kind of let me try out a couple of jazz artists that I was working with and was very successful. And at any rate, they started it as a nonprofit in 2001. And then in 2002, asked me to come on as artistic director. And at that time, they were only doing 4 to 6 shows a year, but education in the beginning was a real strong theme. So the format would be a Friday night concert, would bring an artist in and do a concert, and the next morning they would do some kind of workshop or master class. And I would try to get high school students, college students, and the general public in for that. And that's kind of how it started. And now, so I've been involved with it for 18 years.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So tell us about your work with kids on the educational side, because I mean, I just think that is such a phenomenal thing for underserved communities. I knew I grew up playing music, and it made a huge difference in my life as a teenager, and kind of going through that really sort of difficult process to begin with, right? And just to have that outlet was really powerful.
Oh, for sure. And that was part of, the original mission statement, because we're such a small organization. I mean, we sort of strive, part of that, our description is intimate concerts, because all the spaces that we present concerts in are basically maybe 60 to 80 people. So it's cozy, and people like that. They like being able to feel like they're in the living room and then having these world-class players come in and play. So at any rate, for the first 2 or 3 years, we would do these workshops at the barn. But then after a couple of years, I realized, boy, it's just really hard to get kids to come on a Saturday morning. They're playing soccer, they're doing whatever. So we got a couple of small grants to try to take it out into the schools. And that's when we started what we call the Artist in Schools program. And so then that's been going now for about 16 years and kind of grew it. So we were going into 20 to 30 visits a year in both Josephine and Jackson County, and all grades, from elementary school kids to the university and Rowe Community College. And then over the years, particularly like 5 or 6 years ago, we started partnering with Britt Education and Kay Hilton. And that's been a great relationship and Donna can talk more about what they do on that end, but Kay and I have worked together really well 3 or 4 times a year in collaborating, where she'll organize the school visits. I'll bring in a jazz group or a world music group, do a concert, and then visit 3 or 4 schools over a 3 or 4 day residency. And that's been really good. And of course, all of that is on the table right now with the current situation. So
Yeah,
absolutely. So Donna, I'd like to ask you, you've been with the Britt for a while. How has business changed since you started as the CEO and president?
Well, when I started, it was 2010, and that was a very difficult period in the United States because of the economy. And so I inherited some real challenges, and Britt was struggling just like everybody was struggling. You're probably too young to even know, but it was tough for those of us that were trying to make a living.
Oh, I was here. We almost lost our business. It was crazy. Yeah.
And, historically, our membership program, for instance, was quite transactional. So members expected to get free tickets. And, you know, I crunched the numbers and realized that we were giving away the farm. And, you know, when 50% of the reserved seats are given away as a benefit, it just doesn't pencil out. So we eliminated the free tickets. And yeah, it was tough for people to accept in the beginning, but eventually folks understood that, you know, we have to pay our expenses, and ticket sales only cover about 56%. And so that was one thing we did. The other thing that we did is we really worked on communicating with the businesses in the community and demonstrating the value that the festival has, not only economically, but the educational component that Ed was referring to. You know, most people just didn't realize that Britt did year-round education programs. We have residencies in the school throughout the entire school year, and we're continuing to educate during the summer with all types of programs. So I spent the first couple of years just knocking on CEO doors and explaining to them exactly what it is that we do. And, you know, the money it's come in. To give you an example, 10 years ago, we were making about $70,000 a year in business partner support. This year, we surpassed $400,000.
Oh,
So
wow, that's
incredible.
It's just a matter of education in the community, and these kinds of, you know, Facebook chats help get the word out.
So Donna, I know that you have, I mean, there's been some projects that Britt has taken on over the last few years. Can you tell us about some of your capital projects that have been going on, and where you're at with that?
Yeah. Well, you know, the first time I came to Britt, and Ed, you know, you've been to Britt long before I had been to Britt. I've only been in the Valley for 14 years. But the first time I went, it was hard to find because it was just a hill with a lot of trees and bushes, and the trail into Britt was literally like a little hiking trail.
Yes. You had to hike with your cooler and your chairs.
Who knew? So in 2014, after a couple of years of fundraising, particularly, you know, approaching the different foundations in the state of Oregon, we raised the funds to build the entry plaza that you now are familiar with, and then of course the secondary stage, along with new restrooms and ADA pathways. Prior to 2014, a person in a wheelchair could not take their wheelchair and get a drink. It wasn't possible. And so to me, that was really rewarding when I saw the first wheelchair make its way to buy a beer. You know, it was great. So we continued on. I mentioned the concessions and the fact that we have brought in restaurants. Well, we partnered with those restaurants, and we had them come and look at our concessions building in 2016. And it hadn't been renovated in 40 years. And so the restaurant owners actually helped us design the 3 kitchens.
oh,
Yeah, so each one of their kitchens is customized per their specs, which was really a great partnership. And then of course, the more recent large improvement were the replacement of the bench seats, because they had been there again for 40 plus years, and they had just, you know, they had deteriorated. So we have new bench seating. They're actually very comfortable. Along with that project, we put in new house lighting throughout the venue, and more pathways. So it's just a much safer, it's a safer venue now.
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, so I'm curious to know, Ed, when was the first time you went to the Britt? What year was it, and what did you see?
Wow. So I moved here in the winter of 1989. I've been here 30 years now. So it was probably the summer of 1990. I had come up visiting from California a couple of times. So I may have even been at a show earlier, but you know, because I'm a jazz guy, I've always been attracted to the jazz guys. It may have been Pat Metheny group. Pat used to play the Britt almost every year back then.
Yeah.
And so it could have been, I don't remember the first one. I remember, you know, many memorable shows there. I remember one time going to see Branford Marsalis play there, Wynton Marsalis's saxophone playing brother. And it was funny because referring to what Donna was saying, he said, when they told me I was going to Jacksonville, I thought I was going to Florida. And like, and here I am in the middle of nowhere, you know. But I remember Pat Metheny talking about how, you know, I guess they were here for 2 nights and they got to go out to the Mystery Hill, or, you know, the vortex, the Oregon vortex. So like Donna said, I think once you get them here, even to Southern Oregon, I've had people come and play our little concert series and decide they want to live in the Rogue Valley until they realize how much trouble it is to get out of the airport to go tour, you know. But so artists love to come back here for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Do we have any audience questions?
So actually we do have an audience question, and people really want to know, and I think this is for Ed and for Donna, what can the community do to support both your organizations right now? Because it's just, we know it's tough on you, and I think people really recognize how valuable these organizations are, like yours and Ed and yours, Donna. So give us a sense of what we can do to help you.
I think right keeping up the personal support, you know, don't give up on us, you know, because you know, both organizations, membership is very important. You know, we're a small organization, and that really is what kind of keeps the ball rolling. We don't have the big sponsorships that Britt does, but really it's the members, the core members, that keep us going. So I think, you know, keep your memberships up your donations, that kind of thing. That's what I could say.
Yeah, Donna, anything to add for that?
Yeah, I agree. The memberships are vitally important, and you know, I would hope that people see this time in particular, the bridge between 20 and 21, as supporting the cause and the work and the value add that both of our organizations bring, and don't look at it as so much as transactional. You know, I'm very busy working with different advocacy groups within the industry, looking for support from the state of Oregon, because they are receiving about 1.6 billion from the federal government, and it specifically says that money is supposed to go to support businesses during this very difficult period. So I'm very involved in those efforts.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. I mean, I think that advocacy is really important, and you know, getting up and talking to legislators and making sure that they don't forget about us down here is just so important. And since you've had to postpone like all the 2020 shows and due to the pandemic, and how have you adapted, and what is sort of some of the new marketing strategies that you're promoting for 2021 season?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I've been taking this a month at a time. Started out a day at a time, then a week at a time, and now a month at a time. I mean, literally, our last show was on February 28th, and on March 1st, I was about to update our website was updated. I was ready to go live. I was ready to do our announcements. And the news was breaking in Seattle, and I've been following it. And, you know, I said to myself, you know, I'm going to wait a few days, and I'm glad I did, because we didn't have to do any refunds. I hadn't sent out our email, so we hadn't made any reservations, which was good. So I held back, thinking, okay, I'll wait 2 weeks to send the announcement. I'll wait 3 weeks, and then my first show, which was going to be in late March, it was like, okay, we're going to have to cancel that. So it literally went one show at a time, until I realized, okay, well, we're just not going to do any shows this season. And so the fall is, I did some rescheduling. So I put some people that were going to be in the spring into the fall on a tentative basis, basically waiting to see where we are at in late September, when we possibly will go into this phase 3.
Yeah.
Today we're supposed to be getting an announcement from Kate Brown, our governor, about phase 2, which will allow some larger venues. So at any rate, I'm looking. Now I'm starting to put people into 2021, saying, we're just not going to do it in the fall, but we are exploring for the summer, possibly doing some small outdoor events at the old Siskiyou barn, keeping it socially distanced, out of doors. I did an email this week to our members, just a real informal 3-question poll. Are you interested in attending a concert? Would you be willing to come indoors? Would you be willing to come outdoors? And I'd say 95% of the people said, we would love to attend a concert, but it would have to be outdoors.
Yeah, so that really puts you in the summertime area. I mean, otherwise it gets too cold and rain and all that.
Well, yeah, we have a pretty good shoulder season here. So, the wineries here the wineries have started up. In fact, I have a couple of, my personal gigs coming up this month at like Danson Vineyard and at Belfiore, which have nice outdoor spaces.
Yeah.
So, you can get away with doing music from June until early October around here with a slight chance of, weather.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So that's where we're at. And as far as bringing in out of town artists, that's the other thing is like bringing in people from New York or LA or even Seattle, people are nervous about that, so
yeah.
Right.
Very iffy.
The summertime thing, I think we're just going to do with local artists and sort of reevaluate after we get through phase 2, and can we move into phase 3 in the fall, and are people comfortable going out? So
Donna, how about you? What are some of the creative ways that Britt Festival is weathering some of the impacts? I mean, we had wildfire over the last few years, and now we have, the pandemic. And how is that? How are you working with your team? What does that look like for you?
Right. Well, to play off of what Ed was saying, the Britt operates under a conditional use permit in the city of Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And one of the restrictions on Britt is the dates of the season. And currently we are only allowed to have concerts from mid-June to mid-September. Yeah. We have applied officially to the city of Jacksonville's planning department to extend our season to mid-May through mid-October. If we are able to get this through the city of Jacksonville's planning department, it will open up all kinds of opportunities for Britt. For example, this past spring, we could have had Brandi Carlile, and it was going to be a mid-May concert, but we couldn't book her. And because COVID came, and that's kind of a moot point. But the point is, we do have to pass up a lot of acts that travel through on I-5 during the shoulder season. And what an economic boost that would be to the community of Jacksonville, because when Britt has concerts, those small businesses and restaurants benefit tenfold.
Oh, that's huge. And having that extended season would be amazing.
Would be.
And Donna, I mean, have you thought about maybe what are some of the creative ideas around adjusting like live shows? Is there any sort of thought about doing anything virtual or anything like that?
Well, we have a full schedule of virtual performances throughout the entire summer. For instance, the Britt Vids, which I think, Ed, you've already done one, haven't you?
I'm supposed to be doing one.
You're working on one, yeah. Right. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we have concerts that are specifically geared towards kids. Then on Wednesday, we have a weekly trivia thing that we're doing. It's about kind of share your Britt experience. Then on Fridays, we have Flashback Fridays, where we will show past concerts at Britt and ask the public to share their memories of that particular concert. And then Teddy Abrams, our maestro, he is working on some really cool interviews where we're going to play some of the orchestra performances from the past And then he's going to interview live, like we're doing right now, the musicians and the guest artists that performed in those performances. So yeah, we're doing a lot this summer.
We have a guest question just real quick before we start to wrap things up. And their question is around, you have artists coming in and traveling around. Is there any thought of how do you make sure that they are safe and healthy also? Have you put any thought into, any sort of pre-testing or qualification or, health assessments for artists that are traveling and coming in?
I don't know about Ed, but we're not bringing in any artists this summer.
Okay.
We're looking at 2021.
Right,
Okay.
same here. I mean, basically, until there's a really reliable antibody test or something like that, I don't know if people will end up getting a card that they show, yes, I've been tested, but we're not there yet. So at this point, no. And keeping it to really small, solo, duo, maybe a trio. But as I said, for the summer, it's only going to be regional musicians, myself, and some of the groups that I work with, just to kind of keep something going for our members who are all really tired of sitting at home and are ready to get outside and have a glass of wine and listen to music. So, so yeah, we're, with Donna, I think we're really looking at 2021 before we can get back into a regular routine.
Yeah. I think that's really so important. So last question, what is your dream for, 2021? I mean, it really seems that you have some things going on. I mean, Ed and Donna, what is your sort of ultimate sort of wish for this next year?
Go ahead, Donna. Do you have an answer?
That we actually get to have a concert series. That's what my hope is. And I would love to cut and paste the 2020 lineup and just overlay it on 2021.
That would be nice. Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. Because again, we're a small organization, we really rely on artists' touring schedules. And because our series is primarily jazz oriented, I rely on artists who are booking a tour, someone from New York who's playing Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, down the coast. So, we don't have the budget just to bring people in from New York and things like that. So I have to kind of wait and see, because until some of our artists get their anchor gigs, more or less, we're sort of the middle of the road shot when somebody's making the drive from Portland to San Francisco, and we can offer them a couple of days, come in, do a clinic, go into some schools. It's a great thing for them. But
yeah, well, unfortunately,
until people start getting their bookings.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. I would love to sit and talk with you forever, because this is really important and fascinating. And even though we lost Tiffany, looks like, to some technical difficulties, I'm sure she really enjoyed having you here. We just want to really thank you both for being here and for your insights.
Sure.
So thank you so much. And remember, audience, to please tune in every, oh, there she is.
Sorry about that, everyone. Had technical difficulties today as we proceed on.
Well, remember to tune into Rogue Voice every Thursday at 4 p.m. and connect with us on YouTube and Facebook. Next week, we're going to be talking about healthcare with a couple of local doctors that are incredible. We're talking about how you can improve outcomes through research and education. So thank you so much, everyone.